Hey, this is Jesse with Collins Properties here in Santa Cruz County. Thank you for joining me. Today we are going to do a video about 10 key ideas about the market moving into 2024. And I think at the end of watching this video, you'll have a great perspective about where the market is heading next year. Because, you know, if you're watching the news, they've been saying the sky is falling for close to 12 months now. Back in last October, September, October, November of last year, they were saying the bubble was bursting, the market's crashing, and here we are. We just finished the month of October with I believe the highest median sales price in the US for the month of October. So we are still making price gains year over year. The market isn't crashing. We're just facing certain challenges. And I think that overall the real estate market is handling those challenges pretty well. So before I go into these 10 key ideas, I want to talk about two main rules of thumb that govern real estate. The number one rule of thumb is that if rates go up, inventory goes up. And inversely, if rates go down, inventory decreases. One thing I'm hearing pretty regularly from people is that I'm just going to wait till rates come back down and then I'm going to get into the market. And there's this idea that when rates drop, that a lot of sellers are going to come off the sidelines and put their homes on the market because they're hoping for a higher price. But what they're not realizing is that overall, when rates decrease, buyer competition heats up, and there just isn't enough inventory on the market currently or projected to be on the market to maintain and keep up with that buyer demand. So what happens as a result is the inventory evaporates off the market, and then buyers are stuck fighting for the new homes that do come on the market. And that's when you see those multiple offer situations. Right now in the county, we are at 335 condos, single-family homes, and townhomes on the market. That is about a third of the historic inventory. Back in 2019, for example, we had around 800 to 900 properties on the market at any given time. That is enough inventory to really handle the amount of demand we've seen in the market. But at 335, if rates drop, that inventory will disappear really quickly. And then we're back in 2021 scenarios with multiple offers. The only difference is rates might be at 6.5 instead of 3. So when you get into a bidding war, it's a lot more detrimental to your wallet. So that's one thing we need to keep in mind, is that when rates go up, inventory increases. When rates drop, inventory decreases. The second rule of thumb we need to keep in mind is that buyers tend to be more sensitive to rate changes as opposed to the ultimate values of rates. So for example, if your rates are at 7.5 and they shoot up to 8%, that time between 7.5 and 8 where that rate increase happens, you're going to see a big drawback in market action. But once the market has been at 8 for a little bit, people start to recover and buyer activity starts to resume. And inversely, when rates drop, you're going to see that trigger lots of market activity. So keep in mind that if we do see rates fall, you're going to see the market heat up pretty quickly. So that being said, let's talk about key ideas for the market moving into 2024. And starting at number one, the number one key idea moving into 2024 is that right now we are likely in the bottom of the housing recession. Now, we have gone through a housing recession. Now, it's not been a price recession, but it's been a transaction volume recession. We have seen more than a 26% reduction in overall transaction volume compared to last year. We've actually seen fewer transactions in the United States than we saw in 2009 during the Great Recession. So we have seen a housing recession, and it's due to higher interest rates. There's lower purchasing power and lower buyer demand. So we've likely seen the bottom of that. So moving into 2024, we will likely be seeing more homes bought and sold next year. So moving into number two, inventory has plateaued for the year, and likely we are going to see decreasing inventory throughout the rest of the year. One interesting thing to note is that typically inventory starts decreasing by August, and this year we saw inventory increasing all the way through November. And then we've finally seen it start to drop. And that goes back to rule number one, that when rates go up, inventory goes up as well. So we saw interest rates go from 7% up into the 8s through October and November. And we saw inventory still climbing on the market, where historically it starts falling by August. Now we've kind of turned the corner on rates. We've seen them come back down to the 7.4 range. And now inventory is coming down for the year. So that was an anomaly that we saw in seasonal inventory, but we can explain that because of rates and the first rule that we talked about earlier. Moving into number 3, if rates stay the same, meaning if rates stay in the mid 7s for the rest of 2024, that is actually mildly bullish, because going back to rule number 2 is that the market is more sensitive to the change in interest rates than it is the overall rates. So if interest rates stay the same as they are now, we will likely see more transaction volume. We will likely see prices still go up, and inventory might stay around the same, maybe slightly gain. Now, going into key idea number 4 is that if we see rates continue to increase next year, we will likely see downward price pressure. We will see buyers with less purchasing power and therefore less buyer demand in the market, and prices will have to adjust accordingly. So prices will likely come down, and overall transaction volume will likely decrease if we see rates continue to go up throughout 2024. Moving into key idea number 5 is that if rates drop, we will likely see inventory drop quickly, buyer activity will increase quickly, and we will see a good amount of price appreciation in the market next year. We will probably see multiple offer scenarios, and it will be tough for buyers if rates drop next year. Key idea number 6 is that higher interest rates mean a overall higher carrying cost for property. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when rates were in the 3s, people could buy another house and keep the house that they currently owned because the cost of borrowing money was cheap. When you see interest rates climbing, though, it is no longer as easy to keep the one house you have and buy a second, because if your rates are 4.5%, 5%, 6% or more, you no longer can easily cash flow that property with rental income. It becomes a liability, so you are more likely to need to sell that property when you buy your second home. So overall, we will likely see more inventory on the market in general if rates persist to be higher than they've been over the past 10 years. Idea number 7 is that the economic recession they were predicting really didn't hit like they thought it would. Job growth has remained pretty stable. Wages have remained stable, and typically it takes about a 12-month lag period between an economic recession to actually see that in the housing data. So even if we do see an economic recession in 2024, most likely that will not show up in the housing data until 2025. So idea number 7 is that we most likely will not see any effects of an economic recession in the housing market in 2024. Key idea number 8 is that right now in the market, we've seen a slight growth in the percentage of immediate sales that are in the market right now. That is, listings that come on the market and take an offer immediately. So the ratio of pending sales to the new listings is actually increased right now. And if you compared that with this time last year, that was not the case. This tends to be a bullish leading indicator for positive equity growth next year and typically more sales on the market. So that is a good sign for next year. Key idea number 9 is that the seasonal price declines we typically see this time of year are actually holding up better than this time last year. So that is a leading indicator for prices heading into 2024. That would be an indicator that we might see some strong price increases next year. And key idea number 10 is not a price prediction, but it is a way to kind of gauge how things are going to go next year. And it is that if interest rates stay around 7 for all of 2024, expect positive price gain in the market, but it will be a relatively flat price gain. So it's going to be relatively stable and might end up year over year up in the positive, but it's not going to be some crazy price spike like we've seen in 2021. So if rates decline, we might see that. If rates decline by a large amount, I think we might see another market that is similar to what we saw in 2020, 2021. And inversely, if we see rates persist to stay high and go above 8%, expect another year like we've seen this year, but maybe more pronounced. So you might see price declines, you might see a greater amount of inventory on the market, and you might see much fewer transactions going on for next year. So those are kind of the three scenarios to be prepared for, and I think 2 of the 3 are pretty positive. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you have confidence in where the market is headed next year, or at least clarity on what the 3 scenarios we might be facing look like. I hope you and your families out there have a wonderful Thanksgiving and holiday season. From my household to yours, with much gratitude. Thank you for watching my videos and being involved and reading my newsletter and all the other things you do to support me and my business. Again, this is Jesse with Collins Properties. All my best, and until next time, stay awesome.